Hello and welcome to this Intelligent Briefing. I'm Jess Phillips, Director of Strategic Content at Lynchpin Media. Today I'm speaking with Duke Robertson, Senior Product Manager at Chatsworth Products, who tells us about the launch of the company's Zeta Frame cabinet and the challenges that this is looking to address. Can I ask you, first of all, just to give us a bit of an overview of your company and your role within the company, please?
Sure. My name is Duke Robertson. I'm a Senior Product Manager for Chatsworth Products. And essentially my job is to gather market intelligence, see what the customers need, and work with all of our various teams from engineering to marketing to sales and everything in between to make sure that whatever product we develop and produce and introduce to the market fits all of our customer needs. So touch on a little bit all aspects of the business, but it's a rewarding job. I've been with CPI for about 13 years now, so quite enjoyable.
Can you talk a little bit about how your customer requirements have changed over the last year and how the company has responded?
Yeah, the last year has been challenging. As you know, and like this interview right now, everything's gone essentially remote for most workers. So that's put a tremendous demand on networks and systems and data centers, really, when you get down to it. So one thing that, at least as it relates to us and what we do, is even a higher recognition of the need for uptime and the ability to keep the network on and moving, and so everybody can do their jobs. So we've recognized that, and we recently just released our latest data center cabinet product that hopefully will keep data centers up and running as efficiently as possible. Yeah.
How has cabinet density changed, and what is the impact of this on weight loads?
It's actually changed quite a bit. If you look, we've noticed in the past, say 5-6 years, an ever increase of just density, right? If you think of cabinets or data center racks as real estate, and in a lot of ways they are, real estate's expensive. So the more area that you consume, the more expensive that is to maintain. And also in real estate, it's generally cheaper to go up than out. So we've seen an increase in average cabinet height, overall height. If you even look back even 8 to 10 years ago, 42U was pretty commonplace, and it still is. But fast forward a few years, and now you're seeing 45U is our most common, and we're seeing customers even utilize 48U and even up to 52U just to increase that density within that footprint. Now, as a result of all that additional compute in that same area, naturally you have much higher, heavier cabinet loads that you now have to address. So that's one thing we've noticed in the recent years, of just your average cabinet weight has increased, and there's a lot of safety elements that goes into that. And of course, these cabinets are not cheap, right? All the compute that goes into it are very, very expensive. So ensuring that they can be safely accommodated and transported and do what they are there to do is something that kind of lands on the cabinet to support.
Can you tell us then about your new ZetaFrame product and the challenges that this is aiming to address?
Yeah, sure. We recently introduced our latest generation of data center cabinet, the Zeta Frame, as you said, and there's lots of new features around Zeta Frame. I'll just touch on a few of the high points. One, like I just said, the increased load rating in the market. So we have designed the framework and structure around Zeta Frame to accommodate those higher weight loads. So Zeta Frame has a 5,000 pound static load rating. It has a 4,000 pound dynamic load rating on casters. And it also has a 4,000 pound shipping load rating on a shock pallet that addresses more of the integrator or rack and roll type applications. Another feature is the integral bonding of the cabinet itself. You're used to seeing green jumper wires or ground wires, earthing wires that connect the doors and the sides and the tops all to the framework. And there's a safety element to that. But with ZetaFrame, all of that is integrated, and it's an always-on approach to bonding. Another feature of ZetaFrame is enhanced airflow management. So that's a key component of a cabinet, and the entire efficiency of a data center is how efficiently it can manage the airflow. Another area is we've simplified the cable management approach. So we essentially have three methods to manage cable, and any combination of these can accommodate just about any type of cable management scenario you could possibly want. And I'd say the other one is the ability for us to completely configure a turnkey solution under a single part number. Everything is positioned where you want it, includes power. Essentially roll the cabinet off the pallet and it's ready to go.
Brilliant. You mentioned cable management just now. Can you tell us how important proper cable management is when it comes to the performance and effectiveness of organizations' network?
Cable management, there's a lot of elements that go into that, and some are obvious, some not so much. But one obviously is just keeping things neat and tidy. There's signal integrity that comes into play. But really, the way I look at it is it's like insurance. So proper cable management with everything organized and run correctly, everything's labeled properly. It's insurance for when something does go down. And uptime is very important for any data center. And so when something does go down, the ability to quickly react to those situations, identify where the problem is, and be able to trace it down and correct it as quickly as possible is really of prime importance. So cable management goes a long way, or at least proper cable management goes a long way into to be able to react quickly to those type of events.
What safety considerations should data center managers be taking into account when it comes to cabinet infrastructure?
We already talked about how heavy these cabinets can get, and there is certainly a safety element to that. And in order to go to the market with the load ratings that we're advertising with ZetaFrame, it had to go through a number of tests, and industry standard tests, as well as our own internal testing. The ability for that cabinet to be able to support those loads, not only in the data center, anchored to the floor, but also in a dynamic environment, whether it's being wheeled up a ramp or on the back of a delivery truck going across the country. There's definitely a safety element in that. I talked about the integral bonding earlier. That also has a safety aspect to it. The ability for ZetaFrame to be always on or always bonded is a really important and often overlooked safety element as well.
How important is speed of deployment for data center operations?
If not the most important, it's right up there. Uptime. It's all about uptime and being online, having that capacity available, and the ability for a data center to quickly take a cabinet out of service and replace it, for a refresh is critical, and the time for that switchover is very important to the overall operation of the data center and the network.
Why is a cabinet's ability to manage airflow so critical to efficient data center operations?
Yeah, so there's a lot that goes into just the airflow management of a data center. And if you look at a data center's operational expenses, the electric bill is probably the number one by far. And the biggest contributor to the electric bill is the conditioned air, the cooling of the air to support all the compute that's in the data center. And at the cabinet level, you can have the most efficiently, set up in your data center as possible. But if you're ignoring the cabinet level and its efficiency, then you're really wasting money. It's kind of all for naught. So with respect to cabinet and airflow management, you really need to, it's really best practices. You're using blanking panels to fill up any unused rack space. You need to properly seal the perimeter of your equipment mounting rails at the front to keep that conditioned supply air separated from your exhaust air. And then there's lots of of ways to manage that exhaust air, different containment strategies. Our vertical exhaust duct is another highly efficient way and passive way to manage your exhaust air and your data center kind of cooling strategy in general.
Sure. And looking more broadly at best practice advice, what would be your best practice advice for data center managers for implementing an effective operations strategy?
There's several things that we can address with that with ZetaFrame. One is simply simplifying your supply chain. Under a single part number, we have the ability to offer to customers for them to configure a cabinet exactly the way they want it under a single part number. So everything is positioned exactly where they want it, has all the cable management accessories installed, it has all the PDUs, power installed, has electronic access if you want that, monitoring, all that's under a single part number at our factory, right? It's all assembled and by our experts at our factory, so that when the product arrives at either the data center site or at an integrator that might be offsite, that is basically ready to populate with your compute. So not only does that save an enormous amount of time and labor and costs with all of that installation and assembly, but there's also an environmental aspect to that. If you think about all of the reduced packaging that's involved in by us installing all that at the factory compared to putting all those individual pieces in cardboard boxes and shipping them all across the world, there's a significant environmental benefit to doing that, as well as just the inconvenience of having to dispose of or recycle all of that at the data center site. And then lastly, just the ability to, especially these days where essentially everything's remote, the ability to remotely monitor, at the cabinet level, really at the outlet level of your PDU, and be able to monitor that remotely without having somebody on site, unless it's absolutely critically necessary. That's another, powerful tool and efficient way of running your data center operations.
And let's talk long term then. How can data center managers ensure that their infrastructure is future proof?
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. I would say, for one, consider just the cabinet ecosystem. There's a lot on a data center manager's plate, and a lot to consider, lots of moving parts, very dynamic environment. And one thing that ZetaFrame and Chatsworth Products can do is simplify that process a bit, at least as it relates to cabinet and monitoring and power. The ability to wrap all that under a single part number definitely simplifies the supply chain, and it's one part number to order instead of 10. So that's definitely kind of simplifies the approach, and that would be a key strategy in simplifying the management of the data center in general. And then we have some capabilities, with our power solutions and our cabinet ecosystem that allow data center managers to monitor what's going on at the rack level, and just to ensure everything is operating properly, and then two, if something is an event or something does fault, that they will be notified quickly, and they can react to that incident as quickly as possible to keep things running efficiently.
Brilliant. Can I just ask, just out of interest, really, what kind of feedback you've had this week after the announcement of the launch?
It's been really good. It's been really good. Yeah, pleased with the feedback. We had a really good turnout on. We had a live kind of launch event introducing it to the world. Lots of great attendance there and good feedback, and of course, a flurry of activity on the sales side and just customers wanting information on it. So all of that's out there now for the world to see on our website.
Yeah,
we're excited to get this into the market. It's not a regular occurrence where we introduce a new cabinet platform to the market. So this is many years in the making.